All right, well, Mark, thank you so much for joining me. This is a real treat for me, and I'm astonished by how much we've advanced technologically because having access to a conversation with you right now, it's sort of a thing would have been unimaginable 10, 20 years ago.
That is true. I mean, just for like, n not seeing someone in person. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, beyond that, I mean, you're someone who quite literally shaped a really important part of my childhood.
Oh, neat.
So all these years later to speak to you, it's like, whoa, that's what is reality? It brings up questions like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's
you've
really
been
nice to meet you.
yeah, likewise. And you've been a part of so many projects, but the number one project that had the biggest impact on me was Chaotic.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
How
That's
often do people approach you about
not
Chaotic?
super often. Like I would say it's pretty rare. That's not one of the shows that kind of caught on as much as I would have hoped. I really loved Chaotic. I thought it was a great show and they had some awesome humor in there and I liked the character designs and stuff, but it just I'm not sure I understand the reasons, but it didn't seem to catch on popularity wise as much as like a Pokemon or a Yu-Gi-Oh or some of the other projects I've gotten to be a part of. But personally, I loved Chaotic. I thought it was really, really fun. So I'm very happy to hear that you liked it. So,
Yeah, I loved it. In fact, I think I was in second grade when I first watched it, and I clung to it until seventh grade. It's just like I look back at that, I'm like, wow, that was a lot of years where I was really in love with that world, and um, it was just amazing, man. I mean, the whole concept, and the way that they connected the trading cards with the TV show was super creative in a
yeah,
very different way at that time.
yeah, yeah. Wasn't there a digital aspect to it too that was maybe a little ahead of its time in terms of how I was thinking about it? Or
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah,
There's little codes on the bottom of the cards, and then you could put them into the website and then play
yeah, yeah.
online. That was revolutionary at that
I
time.
know. I wish that would catch on more.
Yeah, it surprises me. That really surprises me. And someone told me they said that chaotic was a very big deal in Canada compared to the US. And I
Oh,
don't know.
interesting.
I don't know why that was a thing. Yeah.
Okay. Try to get to Canada then.
Yeah, yeah. Working on that TV show, do you have a favorite episode and a favorite memory?
Um, so I haven't had to recall a lot of chaotic memories, so they're a little bit deeper buried in my mind. I just loved I loved playing Peyton and one of my good friends, Joe, who was the audio engineer, his son is named Peyton. So uh, anytime I would do a line, it's Peyton, like he would be like Peyton, like, and it would just kind of commiserate or kind of, like there were a couple times where I think his son came in like on a day off of school or something and watched us record and he was like, "That's Peyton, meet Peyton," and so that was kind of a fun special memory and but I just liked kind of doing all the voices. I think I might have lost my voice once being Kaor. Like there was a very Kaor heavy episode um that was very vocally strenuous, just roar, all the kind of deep roaring stuff. So um, that was not a pleasant memory, but it was a memory. So
Where did you guys record that TV show?
we recorded it at Four Kids Entertainment. They used to have a studio on 23rd Street and in Manhattan.
Wow.
Um, and they've since been kind of bought out or acquired by Konami. And I believe there's still stuff produced there every once in a while. But like a lot of companies, a lot of it has kind of shifted to online and a lot of recording is happening over the internet now. So,
That's interesting to know. Yeah, for the longest time, I just always associated chaotic with Canada. I think because
That's
that what that one
so.
person told me. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. And do you have a favorite episode, or that's also just in the
Yeah,
past?
I don't really. They kind of like they all kind of mushed together for me after a while. You know. And we would get to see kind of the animation as we're doing ADR for it, but um I guess I'm ashamed to say I've never like sat down and watched it all, but so I remember from recording it and I remember from kind of the ADR sessions, but it's full of pockets, I guess. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. No worries. Yeah. This one episode in particular, I always remember. It was the one with Eddie X and Screamer.
Mm.
I always wondered in the back of my head because Chris Cornell's my favorite musician, and he's famous for his screaming ability.
Oh
Do
wow,
you
okay.
know if at all Screamer or Eddie X was inspired by that or a particular artist or no?
I don't think a particular artist, but I do think we were kind of referencing like, kind of like I guess like a hard rocker, like a kind of a metal thing, so um but I don't think we necessarily had anyone specific in mind.
Hmm. Do you ever get any free cards for
I
being a
did
part of it?
once, yeah, like I got like a tin of some cards and I gave it to my kids and unfortunately I don't still have it, but I remember thinking, oh, that was really cool. Like we definitely had really high hopes for that show, and I think four kids did as well. I think they were thinking that they know how to do this, they know kind of the science behind this, and I think they were expecting it to really take off. So it was definitely a huge disappointment when it didn't. But they put a lot of heart and effort into it, and um, I think there were some other vendors or other issues that came up that ended up um, making it harder for them. But we really, really loved doing it. So,
Yeah. I remember specifically as a 10-year-old kid, and the last episode was airing, and I didn't know it was the last episode. But my parents were like, "Hey, we got to go out. Like today, we got stuff to do."
oh
So I'm like, "Guys,
no.
I gotta watch this episode. Like we gotta go." So we left, and then I watched it later on. But little did I know that that was
That
the
was
last
it.
episode, and it
Oh
was
man.
a real cliffhanger. I don't know if you remember that, but
No, yeah.
yeah, it was a great show, man. And as you said, it didn't catch on, but it left a big impact on me and on a
Yeah.
lot of people. So
What did you
that's
like about it? Like what made it special or unique for you?
I think just the whole idea of you get to go to this other world and then you meet your friends and you make friends and then you play this game and then you
Hmm.
go into another world of creatures and you get to explore and scan and all that. I think as a little kid that was just amazing, and
Yeah.
the artwork of the cards was also really ahead of its time, I would say. And
Yeah, I do remember looking at the artwork and just thinking, wow, this is really great. So yeah.
yeah, or even the scanners, it was like it
Yes.
was predicting FaceTime and stuff.
No, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it really was ahead of its time. It was great
Yeah.
stuff. Um, but you've also been a part of, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You were Casey Jones. That was a big part of my childhood.
Yeah.
You were also part of this other show that I'm really super curious how many people approach you about it, but it was called Huntik.
Oh yeah. That's another rare one. But yeah, I do like that one a lot too as well. Yeah. Similar, well, I guess that everyone was trying to kind of capitalize on the card tie-ins, but yeah, similar dynamics in that one. So it's cool, yeah.
Do you get recognized for that one often? Or
Um, maybe a hair more than chaotic, but they're both very rare. Like, I sometimes I go to these conventions and I have little kind of, pictures of some of the characters I've done. And like maybe once every 3 or 4 conventions, someone will bring up Huntik or chaotic or, so very, very rare, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
yeah, I'm a writer, and I remember Um, I just wrote in one of my journals one time. I bet Dante Vale has a very cool lifestyle. That character is just a very cool character.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah. Yeah. Seekers, we have a mission. I like that
Yeah.
show a lot. Yeah.
All
Kind of
those
like
shows, by the way, that I've mentioned, they all had really cool theme songs as well.
yes. Yeah. 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 That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember. I feel like with the Huntik one, that was a big deal. Like when they played me the theme song, I was like, whoa. Like, I thought that was so fun. So
Yeah.
it was like that again, like kind of hard rock, So it's fun. I like that a lot.
Yeah, no, but really, with me saying all that, it was just a big thank you for my childhood. And I wonder how often you think about that, that it's not just me, it's a lot of people that you've been a part of their childhoods and you've had a big impact on them.
Yeah, it's pretty special. It's like I guess I think about it more recently than I did certainly when we were recording it. Like when we were recording it, it felt like, okay, here's a job and you're lucky to have work and but there's a little bit of a feeling of I don't know that anyone's really watching this. You know what I mean? Like there's a feeling of like this is kind of getting lost in the sauce of all the different cable channels and now it's even worse with streaming and everything, but it just felt like, we're throwing this out there and I don't know who all's, seeing it. So to hear that yes, people did see it and they connected with it the way I connected with G.I. Joe growing up or Transformers or Voltron um, is very special and it's very, very meaningful to me because I know what those shows meant to me. And when I see, action figures or artwork or old episodes, I'm like, of the stuff I grew up on, I totally get that nostalgia factor and that kind of transporting back to your childhood and getting really wrapped up in those worlds. Like I was invested in like the Joes finding the Weather Dominator before Cobra did, and so like, or the Autobots trying to get the Energon and all that stuff. It's like I was invested in those stories, and so to know that I get to be a small part of that for someone else is incredibly meaningful and special, and it kind of an unexpected surprise because um, it didn't feel significant when we were doing it. So to find out retroactively that people connected with it, it's great. It's a huge honor uh, and one I don't want to take for granted or take lightly. So like I really do enjoy going to a lot of these conventions and meeting people and hearing their stories and it's incredibly encouraging and then it makes you want to try harder on whatever job I'm working on now, you know what I mean? Because like you never know which show or book or cartoon people are going to connect with and so it kind of gives you fuel to want to be the best you can be for whatever it is you're working on.
Thanks for sharing that because that really gets to the core of it. And I can relate to that feeling of is anybody watching this? Does anybody care?
Yeah.
How often did you experience that in your career? And I'm curious particularly because sometimes an artist can get attached to a piece of work. And maybe if it doesn't get a particular reaction, you might feel bad about it, even though it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good.
So,
Yeah.
how much of that have you dealt with throughout your career, and how do you navigate that?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's interesting because like I guess in some ways it's hard to quantify. Like I would say my first 10 years or so, like I got started around like 96, 97. So that the internet wasn't really huge back then. So there wasn't really a way to find out if people really like this stuff or not, or if people were watching it or not. So I would get, I knew I was excited about it. Like I did a show called Daria and it was on MTV and I was super excited when that was broadcast on TV, and I had a bunch of friends over, and we watched the episode together, and oh, it's so cool, you know. But again, it didn't feel like it was a part of public discourse or water cooler moments or whatever, you know. So after a while, the excitement of that wears off, and you're just kind of doing it, you know. And so there was one time where they gave the cast these like really nice Daria watches, and it was like a watch with like the Daria logo on the face of the watch. And so I just happened to be wearing it out and about in New York one time, and I was on a subway and kind of had my hand on the rail, and this guy in like a business suit, he like looked like a Wall Street dude, just kept on glancing over at me. I was like, what is this guy's issue? You know, and like, do I need to move so he can get off the train? Or, and eventually he just kind of leans over and he's like, excuse me, is that a Daria watch? And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, it is. And he's like, oh, I love that show. You know, and that was like that was a few years in, and that was like the first time that like I got any kind of feedback of all, you know, like, oh wow, there's people, and it was not who I expected. Like, there's somebody that is actually watching that show, and that felt kind of cool, you know. Or when I was doing Ninja Turtles, I was super excited about that because that was one of the shows I grew up on and I was a fan of. So I was definitely of any of the shows that I worked on up until that point. That was the one I was most proud of. That was the one I was most excited about because I had a personal connection to that one. You know, like I started doing stuff on Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, but I because I was working on it, I just wasn't a fan of it. I just didn't watch it, you know. But Turtles, like, was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And it felt, you know, the episodes felt kind of like in the spirit of those old Transformer G.I. Joe shows where, you know, we were doing there was humor, but we were taking the action adventure seriously. Like we, you know, like we were really serious about what was going on in these adventures and the stakes for the characters and all that stuff. So so that one I was super excited about. But again, I didn't know if anyone else was excited about it. I thought maybe, you know, well, this isn't the original, so people will always kind of, you know, turn their noses up at it and feel like, well, it's not the original one, you know, and every once in a while I would see a few years in, I would see a kid with like a Ninja Turtles backpack or a Ninja Turtles shirt, and I was like, "Oh, I'm on that show," you know. But like, but there wasn't. So it really wasn't until much later, like a decade and a half later, that you know I maybe started going to some of these conventions and hearing like, you know, that people actually watched it. So it was you do feel a little bit like kind of tunnel vision, isolated, and you don't know how it's being received or what people are liking or not liking, and um so it's a wild experience to like now, you know, 10, 20 years later be hearing from people that genuinely like it. So it's so I guess like before you're getting the feedback, the main motivation is I want to keep my job and like, you know, and like at least for like turtles or certain projects. Like I also do a bunch of Star Wars audiobooks. And, you know, there's certain projects when I'm working on it, I have a genuine love for that, you know, story. So I'm doing the best I can out of just as a fan, what would I want to hear if someone else was doing this? You know, so that's a huge fuel for me. The other fuel is just you want to keep your job and you want to do a good enough job so that you keep getting hired. So that's a big motivation is let me just be as excellent or you know let me take care of this material as well as I can. You know, spiritually I just believe in like doing your best no matter what, you know, and it's whether it's a big paycheck or a small paycheck or a story you're familiar with or a new story. I try as hard as I can to just give my A game and kind of give my best no matter what. But those other factors sometimes are added fuel as well, you know. So um so yeah, so then most of the time you're just kind of working in that bubble. But now it does feel like I can go online and Google something and kind of immediately hear are people liking it or not, or which that has its own dangers and pitfalls, Um, so yeah, it just makes it different, I suppose.
There's a quote, I believe it's either Ralph Waldo Emerson or Ernest Hemingway. The quote goes something like, "Be prepared always to work without applause." And I feel like that's so much of the artist's life because
Wow, that's great.
sometimes you can really pour so much of yourself into something and then the reception is crickets chirping,
Yeah, yeah,
if
yeah, yeah,
even, if even.
yeah,
So thank you for sharing that because, as I said, you've been a part of so many projects. So
yeah,
to hear that perspective from you is really eye opening. That
yeah.
I
Well,
guess that's just the
I'd
nature.
actually never heard that quote before, and I do really like that quote, and I think it speaks to the greater, motivation for any artist is like, even my thing about why I want to keep working and I want to keep my job, but the reason I want to keep my job and keep working is because I love this job, so like, there's other ways to make money that are probably a lot less risky, and I could like make money doing lots of things, but like, I just enjoy pretending and portraying and and all that stuff. So there is you do have to kind of have a love for it, whether you're hearing applause or not, and or whether you're getting paid or not. You kind of have to, if you're going to pursue these types of jobs, it has to be from a love of whatever that thing is. So that's thank you for that because I'd never heard that quote, and that's a great kind of reminder for me. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How'd you get into this? Was it something that you always knew you wanted to do? Or,
Pretty much, yeah. Like I had an amazing mom that like went out of her way to nurture anything she thought I might be interested in. So at a very early age, I think she saw that I liked performing and got me enrolled in like singing classes and improv acting classes, and that led to auditioning for school plays and kind of the speech and debate club in school. And I had excellent teachers and coaches like Miss Hofstetter, Mr. Frost, Miss Ham, Miss Aarons, and just they really, Mr. Putnam, like they all kind of like saw that maybe I had some potential and like really nurtured it and like really kept encouraging me. And when I was getting ready to graduate, I was like, well, I guess that's the end of that. And they were kind of the ones that were like, you could maybe you know, do this for a living. Like you should consider that. And I was kind of like, I can't do that for a living. Like there's no way, that'll happen. And and I was almost not going to apply for it, but my mom kind of convinced me this like you got to convince your dad that this is something you really want to do. Because I was also like, well, they're not going to pay for acting college. Like that's not, but once they saw that I really wanted it and I was passionate about it, then uh, they let me pursue that, and I went to school for acting, and then kind of ended up getting Daria while I was in college. Like that was kind of my sophomore year, and then that kind of started everything in a chain reaction because like I wasn't like setting out to be a voice actor. Like that wasn't as I know a lot of people now pursue that specifically, but I was just trying to be an actor. Like so whether that meant stage or screen or working at a theme park, I was like, I want to be an actor, so I kind of knew that early on, but kind of fell into voiceover as certain opportunities present themselves and, just kind of tried all that stuff out.
wow. Do you live vicariously through all your characters that you do?
Uh, I don't know if I would say it that way. Like, I think I have a pretty vivid imagination, so I do feel like in the moment, I kind of really throw myself into whatever's happening in a scene and can kind of really imagine myself there or imagine the circumstances. But I don't know that I don't know, with the exception of like maybe Star Wars. Like I joined some of the costuming clubs. Like I'm a part of like the Rebel Legion and the Saber Guild, and we'll like dress up and go to like different conventions or charities, and so I sometimes will, maybe live through that a little bit. And there's certainly like characters I've gotten to play that I deeply admire and find inspiration in to try to kind of, motivate me and kind of help me have illustrations or metaphors to understand right from wrong or trying to kind of, how I want to live in this world, but so maybe I do live vicariously. As I'm saying this, like maybe I do. But yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, no, I asked that question because when I write, I notice that I tend to put autobiography in my stuff,
Uh-huh.
in different artistically in different things.
Sure, sure.
And the thought occurred to me that I think like when I write a character, for example, maybe it's because it's that human desire of wanting it all. And maybe you can't live that particular life at the moment or something. And it's like, oh, well, I live vicariously through this character.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You get hired to play these characters, but do you
Yeah.
feel like you put any of your autobiography, so to speak, in them?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that you're definitely drawing on your experiences, whether those be emotional experiences or circumstantial experiences, but you're definitely drawing on all that stuff for the characters you play. Um, yeah, so like, it's I think writers have a little bit more control over that, but I'm definitely drawing on, times I've been rejected or times I've been scared or times I've been um, determined or whatever it might be, to kind of, fill in some of those gaps or whatever. So,
With that being said, is there a particular character you've played where you're like, you know what? I identify myself most with that one. I see myself most in that one.
uh, um, well, I mean, so like, okay, so with like Peyton, um, I was stealing pretty heavily from Jack Black. Like that was kind of my main source of inspiration. But having said that, I have that type of sense of humor, like where I'll just like burst into like a really, exaggerated over the top kind of, um, you know, talking or joking around or whatever. So it's probably 80% Jack Black and 20% me. And then, Casey Jones, I think when we first started recording him, it was like this really dark vigilante story. You know, the Purple Dragons had, you know, kind of hurt his family and all this stuff. And so it was like this, really raspy, kind of like tough, really almost more of the action adventure than it was anything else. But then I think we got some feedback from the directors or as kind of stuff was coming in that maybe he was sounding a little too much like Raph, and that it was hard to kind of distinguish him from Raph. So we I don't know how much of it was me, how much of it was the writers, how much of it was me then making a course correction, trying to not sound too much like Raph, but he got a little goofier. He got a little, like more kind of like, a little bit dumb and kind of, so like um and so there's probably a lot of me and Casey. Um and I like that. Like I kind of like how Casey evolved and like he can still be tough and strong, but there's kind of like a goofiness, and I'm a bit of a goofball, so I think there's a lot of me and Casey. Um, and then certainly there was another show I did called Ultimate Muscle, and Kid Muscle is just me on steroids. Like that's like like he's closest to my natural speaking voice. Um, and he's got that super zany over the top humor. And then when he wants to be brave, he's trying to be like a superhero, and I aspire to be kind of heroic and different areas. So like, that one's probably the most like me um of all of them, I suppose. So, but there's definitely, like you said, like there's pieces of my biography in all of them. So,
Yeah. Going back to the conversation about your teachers, because you mentioned so many of them, when you made it, so to speak, did you ever reconnect with any of them? And what was that interaction like?
yeah, yeah, it was super fun. I did. I would go back around the time, I think, of Daria, I think. I did go back for like a summer vacation or something and uh, visited uh with them, and I can't remember if I talked to some students or not, but yeah, it felt kind of cool. It felt like, and it felt like kind of their victory as well. You know what I mean? Like they
Mhm.
had invested in me. So it was cool to see that their work was not in vain, and that their encouragement and guidance and mentorship um, bore fruit, and led to something life-changing for me. So like, like it was fun to get to thank them and acknowledge their role and all that. And, so that was pretty special. It was pretty great.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to another voice actor, and he said something very similar. He spoke very fondly of his teachers and just how they instill that. And I think it's really cool that when a person shares the people that kind of push them in that direction.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like it gives hope when someone says, follow your passion. It's not just all a fairy tale, it's just there's
Yes,
truth to
yes,
that.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And it's always like I sometimes feel like a tricky balance between that because like there were certain people in my life, like like my dad loves me very much and supports me very much, but he had the other side of that coin of, we have to think practically, and we have to, like the chances of this happening are not very good. So you want to just to be able to take care of yourself, you've got to consider the other side of the coin. So sometimes I have those two voices kind of dueling in my head, because I want to encourage people and I want to encourage people to follow their dreams, but I also know that there's a lot of rejection and there's a lot of hardship, and it's not a guarantee. Like there's plenty of people that are super, super talented, but they just, for whatever reason, don't get certain opportunities, and so, um, and I would never want someone to feel like it's because they're not good enough or they're not talented enough. There's just so much, so sometimes I'm trying to find the balance between those two supports. I got support from both ends, but how, in terms of how do I want to be for people kind of coming up in the industry now or trying to make it now, it's like that weird balance of, yes, follow your dreams and follow your passion, but you do have to be practical and you do have to be cautious, and and you got to kind of guard your heart, and and so it's I try to do both. I don't know how successful I am. So
I'd attend different short film festivals, and there'd be some short films that would just suck. And I'd say to myself, oh, well, that's obviously why they haven't made it because it just
Mhm.
sucks. But then I saw another side of the coin, which was, wow, these are really great short films, but they haven't made it either.
Yeah.
And that really blew my mind because it it shattered my reality for a second, and it was
Yeah.
the realization that, as you said, it's not talent
Right.
alone.
No.
There's some really talented people, and it just doesn't work. And with your experience, what would you say is the most important component, or is it all just magic, luck, chance? You can't really say anything.
I mean, it's not all luck and chance, but like you said, it's not all talent. Like, and I do think it's important to acknowledge the roles of both of those things, because it will be discouraging if you feel like, because you start to question like, well, what's wrong with me, or am I not good, or and certainly some people, maybe you're not as talented as other people, and maybe that is contributing to that, and that, you might have to face that reality. Um, so, but there's a lot of people that are really thick-skinned and they are really hard workers and they're really diligent. And I've seen them go farther than people that have a lot of talent because they will put in the grind of you know sharpening their own skills and networking and not giving up. And so there's a huge aspect of persevering and just the as a quality and just putting in a lot of effort is a huge thing. Um, I've seen there's some people that are super talented, but they're really hard to get along with, and they're kind of maybe got a bit of an ego issue, or they've got a mean streak, or sometimes they're not super reliable. So like they would like come late to recording sessions or not show up at all, or not come in prepared. And they're super talented, so sometimes that talent got them by, but then eventually like people didn't want to work with them because of those other qualities. And like when I first on my first job, I got cast to play one character, but then I ended up taking over two other roles because I think there were some personality conflicts or some issue with the person who was playing those other two roles. So sometimes it's like just being a decent human being is a part of that formula. It's like, not that that should be the only reason that you try to be a good person, but like that can get you ahead. And if you're a jerk or unreliable or unprofessional, you can be super talented, but that's gonna maybe make people not want to work with you. But then beyond a shadow of a doubt, luck plays a huge role. Like if I didn't, get lucky enough to answer this backstage ad for Pokemon at that moment in time, I probably wouldn't have gotten to do a lot of the things I've gotten to do now because of just that just was luck. Now, when that opportunity came along, I was prepared and I had studied and I had tried to be the best I could be, but the opportunity itself was pretty much chance. Or um so it's all the above, I suppose.
When you look back at your own journey, what do you think it is about yourself that helped you persist this far?
It's a lot of things. I think I definitely, like I mentioned earlier, had a lot of encouragement growing up and a lot of people believing in me and had a lot of resources that maybe a lot of other people didn't have in terms of like the high school I went to put on amazing musicals and plays. Like they were top-notch productions and my teachers and coaches treated them. It wasn't just let's put on a play. It's like this is they treated it very seriously. And so getting that training at a young age was incredibly helpful. Having encouragement. I do think that um, there's some God-given talent that people have, and I think I have some just talent that God's given me. I believe so. I do think that's a huge part of it. I think my dad like always instilled in me to be a hard worker, like no matter what it was, um, like to real like the importance of like being diligent and working hard at something and and finishing your work and kind of having integrity. Those were things that my dad especially and my mom and dad gave me. And my mom has this amazing sense of humor that I think helps. And so it's so many different things. And but I think they all kind of came together and allowed me to kind of do something I really love. And so I'm incredibly grateful to all of those people and things.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's wonderful to hear because it's so wholesome. I imagine there must have been a time in your life where you felt like I don't have anyone in my corner, maybe I feel like quitting.
Okay. Yeah.
There must have been maybe a conversation with yourself that said, "Nah, keep going." Did any moment like that ever happen, or not in your journey?
No, no. I mean, I had a weird detour because I was also a minister in my church for about 10
Oh wow.
years. And so for a while I thought that was more what I was going to do, and I
Mm.
wasn't pursuing acting as much. But then my church went through a split and they couldn't afford to pay my salary and the senior pastor's salary. And I'd kind of been doing voiceover on the side. So I was like, well, let me try to, you know, it makes more sense for me to step down than it would the senior pastor to step down. So I started trying to audition again, but I'd been out of the game for so long that it was like it really was like starting over again, and I wasn't having much luck. And then I found out my wife was pregnant, and it just felt like, uh, like how are we going to support ourselves? What are we going to do? And I tried to kind of pursue safer jobs, like I'll sell life insurance or I'll be a teacher. Like, like there's a need for teachers, so let me be a teacher. And all of those things kept like not working out. I just kept getting those doors shut, and I did just kind of feel like a little hopeless, a little scared. I was kind of cater waitering and all that stuff. Um, and if I'm being honest, it wasn't really, it didn't, the kind of turning of the corner didn't happen from a talk with myself. It did have to come from outside again, because I was like, um, I was doubting that I would be able to support my family. I was doubting I could make a living doing anything. And I would still audition here and there, and I would get certain parts, and that would interfere with the substitute teaching thing because I kept having to tell the substitute teacher I couldn't come in today because I had this, voiceover job, and they're like, "Well, you can't. We need to be able to count on you if we're going to call you in." And it was my wife who said, "You should really go for this. Like, you should really." And I don't know that I would have had the courage to do it if it weren't for her, at that time, because I'm thinking it's irresponsible to try to be an actor when I've got a young baby, and like I can't do this. And but she was like, "You really should. I think you should do this. I think you should try." So like, if it weren't for like when I was younger, my mom, and when I was older, my wife, and my acting teachers when I was younger, I don't know that I would have done that. So I guess I'm just wired that way where I needed that outside push. So, but I know plenty of other people that are more self-starting and have that more, I knew I would still want to perform just for the love of performing, but thought, well, I'll just do kind of a community theater or kind of do it for fun as a hobby, but like pursuing it as a career, I kind of always needed those outside pushes or those outside voices to kind of get me going because I didn't really believe that it could happen without those votes of confidence. So
Wow. That's incredible, man. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah,
That was really profound. That was really insightful to me. And yeah, that's amazing. That's an amazing thing to hear.
oh cool.
I didn't know that you were a minister, by the way.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, 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 yeah. I actually preached last Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I still do that kind of voluntarily every once in a while. Like the main guy was out of town, so I kind of filled in. So yeah, but yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Mark, this has been an incredible conversation,
Yeah,
honestly.
it just went much deeper than I thought it would go.
Yeah, no, I feel like you probably get asked a lot of the same questions. So I just kind of wanted
Yeah.
to see a different side of you, and who
No,
you
that's
are.
great. I appreciate
And
it.
yeah, and I loved the things you had to say because they were truly, really insightful and a lot to learn from. Do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you felt like you wanted to say we didn't get a chance to, or something on your mind you wanted to express?
Um, I felt like I rambled a little bit, but I do want to just maybe underline perseverance as a quality. If you're trying to do something artistic, just having that drive to persevere will get you very far, you know, and to not, if things aren't working out as quickly as you want them to, or in the specific field you wish they would, um, just continue to persevere and like just say, you know, I do feel like there's this idea of like being open to just saying yes to a lot of things because you never know what's going to lead you to what, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't have thought voiceover would be where I landed, but just because of a willingness to say yes and try something, and you know, you might find something different that you love doing that you weren't setting out to do, or that might lead to the thing you do want to do. Um, and you don't want to like kind of ignore that because it's not a movie or it's not a TV show or you know, like you know, I think just nowadays it feels like to cut through, everybody's gotta just kind of keep creating and like whether it's, you know, something you're posting on social media or YouTube on your own, you know, it might connect with somebody and you might not realize it for a while, but just the act of putting it out there and doing it is going to be useful, whether it's, you know, leading to another thing in the future or just for your own soul and your own creativity. Just the act of creating and trying is going to make you a better artist. So,
Yeah, and that reminds me, there's always quiet admirers out there.
yeah,
They might not ever say a word, but they like your stuff, you know?
yeah.
Yeah. But man, you really are a true talent. You've been in part of so many projects, and that whole Four Kids era, because I know you were also part of Dinosaur King and Viva Pinata. I
Oh, yeah,
mean, that
yeah.
whole era of TV shows, great time for childhood.
Oh,
So
good.
thank you once again for being a part of that.
No, I really appreciate it. Thank you. You're a great
Yeah,
interviewer.
appreciate that. Well, that's the interview, Mark.
Awesome.
Just one more thing I wanted to say to you was, you really are such a big talent. I'd love to see you on Jim Cummings' podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
honored. That would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you absolutely deserve a place on there. So it'd
Oh,
be cool to
wow.
see you guys interact.
Yeah. He's pretty awesome. We've kind of peripherally been at the same conventions, but I don't know that he is aware of me. So, but yeah, so he's pretty great though. He's one of the guys that I look up to because he can do. I love it when voice actors can do a lot of different voices and they don't sound the same. Like the characters really sound different from each other, and he's such an amazing talent. Like his voices are super distinct from each other, and they're really great. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks again for being here.
yeah,
And
thank
it's
you.
nice to know that you're in Austin, man. Like that.
Yeah,
That's so.
yeah.
I never. I don't know. I've always connected chaotic with Canada, so I assumed you'd be up there. But
Oh no, yeah.
cool that you're out here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be in Houston end of August. They're doing a convention there. It's
Oh.
called Nostalgia Con. It'll be at George Brown Convention Center, the 22nd through the 24th or something like that. So
Okay, that's cool.
yeah,
I'll have to
there'll be a
check
bunch
that
of
out.
cool kids people there. So yeah.
Nice, nice. Um. Well, do you have any other questions or anything?
No, this is great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, as soon as it'll be out, I'll let you know.
Okay, cool.
All right. You take
All
care,
right.
Mark.
Thanks, dude. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.